I am holding a handful of soil from my back field in my hand right now, and it is so dark and so full of life, it crumbles apart like a piece of chocolate cake. My great-great-grandfather Yoder broke this same ground in 1838, the year he crossed over from the Palatinate, that is Lat in 8, with nothing but a Bible and a chest of carpenter's tools. This field has grown food for nearly 200 years, and in all that time, not one single bag of store-bought fertilizer has ever touched it. My name is Elias Yoder. I am Amish. I farm this same ground my family has farmed for 5 generations in Lancaster County with horses and hand tools and no electricity, and my soil grows more food per acre than the big operation down the road that spends a small fortune every spring on chemicals. Now somewhere out there a man is standing in a field that used to be black and is now the color of dust, looking at a fertilizer bill that gets bigger every year, wondering why the ground does not hold the rain anymore. And then I am going to tell you the part that should make you a little angry, because the man who sells him that fertilizer will never say one word about the free fix sitting right under his boots. None of this is a secret. It has been written down for 200 years. You were just never told. By the end of this, you will know exactly how to start rebuilding your soil this season for next to nothing. Stay with me. Here is what most folks get wrong about soil, and it is the root of the whole problem. They think soil is dirt. They think it is a dead thing, a kind of sponge you pour chemicals into, so the plant can drink them up. That is exactly how the big farms treat it. They feed the plant directly, a bag of nitrogen and a bag of phosphate, straight to the roots, and they ignore the soil completely. But soil is not dirt. Soil is alive. One handful of healthy ground holds more living creatures than there are people on this whole earth. Fungus threads finer than a hair, bacteria by the billion, worms and beetles, all of it working together in a kind of quiet trade. The scientists have a name for it now. They call it the soil food web. We just call it living ground. And here is the whole game right there. When you feed the plant straight from a bag, the plant stops asking the soil for anything. The trade stops. The living things starve and die off. The ground turns to dust, and dust does not hold water. And so every year you need more chemicals and more water just to stand in place. You are not farming anymore. You are running on a treadmill that somebody else built, and they own the treadmill. We do the opposite. We never feed the plant. We feed the soil, and we let the soil feed the plant, the way it has done since the beginning. Trust me on this. Once you understand that one difference, everything else is simple. So here is the first thing you do, and it costs you nothing but the habit. You never let your ground sit bare. Never. Bare soil in the hot sun is soil that is dying. The sun bakes the life out of the top inch, the rain beats it down hard and runs straight off, and the wind carries your best dirt clean away. The English, and forgive me, that is just what we call folks outside our community, no disrespect in it at all. The English will plow a field in the fall and let it sit naked and brown all winter long. We never do. The moment a field comes empty, we put something back on it. After the harvest, we do not haul the corn stalks away and we do not burn them. We leave them right there on the ground as a blanket. That blanket feeds the worms all winter. It holds the soil down against the wind, and by spring it is half rotted into the ground as free food. That is your first free fix. Stop hauling away what your own field grew. Leave it lay. Now here is the second piece, and this is the one that does the real work. On any ground we are resting, we plant clover, red clover, or you can use vetch or alfalfa if you have a longer rest. A bag of clover seed costs a few dollars and goes a long way, so I will be honest with you, it is not quite free, but it is the closest thing to free you will ever find because of what happens next. Clover and its cousins are what the old books call legumes. And legumes do something that ought to amaze you every single time. They pull nitrogen right out of the open air and put it into your soil for nothing. The air above your field is almost 4/5 nitrogen, but the plant cannot use it floating up there. So the clover makes a deal. Down on its roots, it grows little knots, little nodules, and inside those knots, it houses a bacteria called rhizobia, that is rhizobia. The plant feeds the bacteria sugar, and the bacteria pulls nitrogen out of the air and hands it back to the plant. The engineers in their factories burn a great deal of fuel and gas to make 1 bag of nitrogen fertilizer. The clover does the very same work, quiet in the dark, for free, powered by nothing but sunshine. How much does it put in the ground? I will not lie to you and throw out some wild number. A good, honest stand of clover or alfalfa, well grown, can fix somewhere between 50 and 150 pounds of nitrogen to the acre in a season. And here is the honest caveat. Only about half of that comes free to your next crop, and the rest takes its own time. But half of 100 pounds of nitrogen that you did not pay a dime for, that came out of thin air, well, that is the kind of arithmetic that built this farm. And there is a gift on top of the gift. When that clover blooms, my 11 hives of honeybees go right to work on it, and my wife's flowers are not the only thing keeping them fed all season. One free fix does 3 jobs at once. It feeds the soil, it feeds the bees, and it asks nothing of you but a few dollars of seed and a little patience. And then there is the oldest fix of all, the one that truly costs nothing if you keep any animals at all. Manure. We have horses and a few cows, and everything they give back goes onto the fields once it has aged and mellowed. Fresh manure is too hot and will burn a crop, so we let it sit and compost down first until it smells less like a barn and more like the floor of a forest. Then out it goes. No bag, no truck, no bill. The animals eat the field and the field eats them back. And if you keep no animals at all, your own kitchen will give you half of this for free. Every peeling and every coffee ground and every armful of leaves raked off the yard, piled up and left to rot down into black crumbly gold. Before I go on, let me say one thing to you directly. I go through the comments on these. I read every single one, so when you try this, I want you to come back and tell me how your ground looks come spring. Tell me what you sowed on it and what the soil felt like in your hand. There are a great many households out there quietly doing this same work, bringing back ground that somebody told them was finished, and I read every report that comes in. Now let me show you the part that makes the whole thing hang together. Here is the piece that ties the rest into a system. You rotate. You never grow the same hungry crop on the same ground year after year, and you never leave that ground without a rest. Corn is a heavy feeder, so after the corn we put down the clover to give back what the corn took. We move the animals across. We let a field lie under clover and bees for a season and come back to it stronger than we left it. Round and round, year after year, the ground getting richer instead of poorer. Now my grandfather never read a single scientific paper in his life, and he could have told you all of this standing right at the fence. The family always rested the ground and always rotated it, because that is simply how you were taught to farm right. The soil scientists are only now catching up and putting fine names on what we always did. They call it building soil organic matter. They call it nitrogen fixation. They call it the soil food web. Big words for an old habit, and I do not say that to mock the science, not at all, because the science backs it up cold. There is a place called the Rodale Institute, that is R-O-H Dale, and starting in 1981, they ran the longest side-by-side test of this in the whole country, living soil against chemical soil, plot beside plot, for over 40 years. And here is what they found. In a normal year, the living soil grew just as much corn as the chemical soil, every bit as much. But in a drought year, when the rain did not come, the living soil grew as much as 30% more, because ground that is full of life holds onto water like a sponge, and dead dust just lets it run off. 40 years of careful science, and it lands exactly where my grandfather already stood. So now you have to ask yourself why nobody ever told you this. And here is the honest answer, and it is not some grand wicked plot. It is just money, plain as day. There is no money in a free fix. There is no salesman who gets rich telling a man to leave his corn stalks lay and sow a few dollars of clover. But there is a great deal of money in selling that same man a fertilizer bill every single spring for the rest of his farming life, and a bigger one each year as his soil gets weaker and needs more. The man who sells the nitrogen does not want soil that feeds itself. He wants soil that has forgotten how, because then you have to come back to him. A field that needs $100 of nitrogen an acre year after year after year is not a problem to him. It is a customer. The free fix sits right under everybody's boots, and the only reason it stays quiet is that nobody can put it in a bag and sell it back to you. And the stakes here are bigger than one season's corn, so let me put it plain. The topsoil in this country is being spent like money out of a jar that nobody is filling back up. Every year a field is farmed dead and left bare. A little more of it blows away or washes off, and that soil took the land thousands of years to make. When you farm the way I am telling you, you are not just saving on a bill. You are doing the one thing almost nobody does anymore. You are leaving the ground richer than you found it, so that whoever has it after you, your children or somebody else's, gets a field that gives instead of a field that begs. That is the whole difference between owning land and just renting it from the future. I will not pretend it is instant, because it is not, and anybody who tells you different is selling something. The first year you switch a tired field over, it may even sulk a little and give you less while the life comes back into it. This is slow work. It is 2 and 3 seasons of patience before the ground truly wakes up, but it only ever goes one direction. Every year, it gets better and cheaper, while the bag of chemicals only ever gets dearer. So let me gather the whole of it into one breath for you. Stop hauling away what your field grew and leave it lay as a blanket. Sow a few dollars of clover on any ground you rest, and let the rhizobia pull your nitrogen out of the open air for free. Feed the soil with aged manure or your own kitchen scraps. Rotate your crops and never let the ground sit bare or sit hungry. That is the whole system, and the only thing on that list you ever pay for is one small bag of clover seed. So this season, here is what I want you to do. Pick one tired piece of ground, the worst patch you have. This fall, leave the stalks on it. This spring, sow it thick with red clover and let it be. Spend the few dollars and not $1 more. Then next year, come and stand on it. The soil will be darker and softer, it will crumble in your hand, the bees will be working the blossoms, and you will be growing food on ground that costs you nothing to feed. The folks in my community already know this works. We have known it for 200 years. I am writing it down for the folks outside it who were simply never told. Next time, I am going to show you the one thing my grandmother kept down in the cellar that held the seed potatoes from rotting clean through to spring. No chemicals and no trickery, just a single thing off the pantry shelf that most folks throw straight in the bin. The people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only just starting to remember.